Welcome back to another episode of Dark Side of the Moon. All right, Nolly, what the fuck are we talking about, motherfucker?
Wars.
What kind of wars?
Wars fought a long time ago, and there was a distance from where you are to where they are. That's actually quite vast.
Was it like a long time ago in a galaxy, maybe in a distance that's not close by, but one could
Yes,
say in a far, far place away?
something like that.
Something
Yeah,
like
we're talking about laser swords.
planet battles. Am
Yeah,
I right?
we were talking about the perfect trilogy that was the prequel.
Technically should be called planet battles. So I'm just going to put it out there because no stars ever fight in these wars.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Mm.
There was that one in number 7 that could like harvest the power of a star. Remember that? That's about as close as it got.
Star Killer.
The Star Killer. That's
Star
the
Killer
one.
base or some shit.
We're not there yet. We're at number 1, 2, and 3. Although this film wasn't released chronologically by any stretch of the imagination, we decided that we were just going to go to the beginning of the story and take it from there. And I watched The Phantom Menace on purpose, which is
yeah. So like, what we're here to sit down and talk about is another episode of Dark Side. We did a little bit of difference on the intro, but you want to hear what we're want to talk about today is Star Wars. We're going to go through. It's the time of the year. We've been doing a lot of superhero content. We've been fucking talking about for a long time, branching out, but we kind of got bogged down in the MCU, DC kind of content, all the stuff that was coming out very currently.
It swallowed us whole.
Yeah.
It swallowed us whole. There's no way around it. Yeah.
We decided this was the perfect opportunity to just fucking branch out and talk a little bit about Star Wars coming up to May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And all this kind of shit. It's the right time of year. We're going to look at the entire series, and we're going to start off, like as you said, we're not going to go in release order. We're going to go in the chronological order of the world events. So we're going to start with the prequel trilogy, Phantom Menace, and we're going to talk about Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. Anyone who's ever listened to us over in Potty Snatchers knows we do Franchise Fridays. These we're going to call these on Dark Side Marathon Mondays because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing some marathons. We're releasing them on Mondays. That's the best we could think of. So
we're not very clever or creative. But...
Yes. So no, like if there's anything more divisive than the Star Wars trilogy out in the planet of entertainment, I don't think anyone could find it. I'm
not aware of it.
Yeah, these are the most divisive topics that anybody's ever fucking brought to film. Like pretty much if you do anything wrong with Star Wars, it's like you shit all over people's childhoods.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like we should have gone with something easy like the abortion issue or something like that, but we had to go for something actually more divisive, and that is talking about Star Wars.
Fuck. I had to go hard with the A word, didn't you? Jesus.
So we started with Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, what that film got right, it got really, really, really right. It's not a lot, but actually the pod race, the battle with Darth Maul, was iconic.
Oh man,
excellent.
The climaxes of all 3 movies are class.
Yeah, and you're just like even when they're under sea and the big fish comes along and an even bigger fish kills the big fish.
Yeah,
and Qui-Gon goes, "There's always a bigger fish," and I was just thinking, I love that kind of practical / CGI aliens on an alien planet thing. The Star Wars always did much better in Star Trek. Aliens were aliens. They were, they had, and
so they all speak English. Incredible.
Right? Yeah, but just Jar, then all of a sudden Jar Jar comes in, and you think, God, yeah, this was,
and he owns the movie.
And he owns the movie.
Oh, it's just what it is. It's just what it's like. If there is a more stellar performance out there right now than that dude that played Jar Jar Binks, I think his name's Omar Som. Is that his name? No, can you get it up? No.
Yeah, I'll get it up. Go ahead.
But I just think the performance of Jar Jar Binks is one of the most layered, one of the most complex, one of the most maybe forward-thinking performances that has ever occurred. And not only the performance, but the creation of the character himself. George Lucas must have sat down there and in a sheer moment of epiphany, a sheer moment of genius, he thought, I have figured out a way of not just offending all Caribbean people on planet Earth, but I've also figured out a way of somehow insulting and offending reptiles.
Yeah. Ahmed Best.
Sorry.
Yeah, is the guy you're looking for, that poor. But I mean, instantly, it just, and I have to say, like, I mean, again, what it did right, but there's certain things that you could not forgive. And the battle where of the, I forget what the actual species that Jar Jar comes from are called, but the battle between the battle between them and the droids.
What are they called? Gorgon? No, something like that.
But
Gungans.
yeah, there you go. Well done.
Yeah.
And you know, where he kind of Mr. Magoo's all the way through it. And there's like he's hanging off the tank, and your man throws him one of those ball things, and he's like, "What?" Actually, perfectly kills the guy.
The classic C-3PO.
Oh my god, yeah! And
It's
he actually hands out the back of a kind of a thing that was escaping it with all these giant ball things in it, and he opens it, and they fall. Of course, they wipe out fast, swaths of the army, and you're just literally falling over himself, doing amazing. A Jedi wouldn't have done as well in that battle as him, because he fell arse over elbow, and I hated it.
Elbow.
But I hated that in 1999.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I went to that.
Weak sauce.
I went to that as a teenager. They hadn't I remember the 97. They re-released the Star Wars, just to mark the 20th anniversary, and that was cool. But this was the first Star Wars of my generation. Like this was a Star Wars that was just made for now, and I remember just kind of, I remember that being the moment I gave up on it. I went, "This is just the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen." Yeah, because people were supposed to be getting killed, like, you know what I mean? Like it was supposed to be like the genocide of a species, and it was just so. It was I don't know, man.
The battle scene was cool though, between the Gungans and the droids. Like this, like is one.
And the way the droids loaded out, it looked so cool. Like
it was awesome. It was cool. It was just cool. I love that weird kind of conflict, or the weird kind of like mixture of for just juxtaposition, kind of, but not really. I'm trying to think of a different word, but the difference between the nature based weapons against this high-tech kind of robotic mechanized kind of warfare, and the two differences in the technology and how they meshed, and the comparison between the two of them, and the different battle strategies and had. And by the way, Gungan force fields are not worth fuck if you start walking towards them.
It's just
they're amazing against power-based weapons or something, but
energy-based weapons. End of story. If you had a slingshot or something, you could have started taking them out. It was just ridiculous. Or grenades that don't become energy-based weapons until they land. You know what I mean? It was
like, because the droids just started walking through it. Like it's like, it just made no sense. But like apart from that, like I thought, like the battle sequence was fucking awesome. The one in Naboo, I thought that was cool. It was one of the best parts of the movie. The fight sequences were always awesome. These trilogies, the fight sequence between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi against Darth Maul was fucking awesome. The soundtrack, I think it's John Williams, is it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. When it got, and you're talking about things that got right. You know, like when Obi-Wan becomes separated from Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon is fighting Darth Maul, and the laser field goes up in between them, and it was on kind of like a time switch basically, and Qui-Gon just gets down and meditates, and Darth Maul just paces back and forward. There's absolutely nothing going on. It's an awesome scene.
Yeah,
because Obi can't get to him. Qui-Gon is just taking his time to gather himself, and Darth Maul is a killing machine. Darth Maul is just like frustrated that he's not biting at the minute. That's all he cares about.
Yeah,
and I remember just thinking, that's cool.
Yeah, but Qui-Gon dies straight after that. He probably shouldn't do.
Yeah, he should have probably. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, keep your heart rate up. You know what I mean? Like, it's like not the time to be sitting down, Qui-Gon. You're in the middle of a lightsaber duel. If I was you, I'd be keeping my heart rate up. You know what I'm saying? But like the whole introduction, Darth Maul and stuff as well. Like we talk about the order, or is it the rule of two, where there's always one master, one apprentice, no more, no less. All this kind of stuff. It gave you a real idea of the kind of the basis and the origin of the dark side and the Sith, and the origins of the Emperor and the Empire itself and all that. And I thought, even though it's the weakest of the three movies that we're going to talk about today, it's still a very, very important movie in terms of the origin of the Republic, the origin of the empires we talked about, the difference in the power struggle in the Senate, where you see Palpatine becoming the kind of supreme ruler throughout the movies, but starts here. But like, I think one thing that they really made a mistake about was, and it's no fault through the actor himself, Jake Lloyd, the casting Anakin is such a young character, and still at the same time trying to build this weird pedophilic fucking like love interest with Natalie Portman, for lack of a better term.
It was odd.
Yeah, it's because like, if you're going to make him so young, you can't have any weird romanticisms between the two of them, but they had so many in this movie. It was creepy as fuck. Like, it was so weird.
Yeah, they did, and I also like the kid was actually okay as an actor. He was a decent kid actor, not great,
Yeah,
not terrible. He was
yeah.
decent.
He's a
But
kid, like 5 or 6
but
or
they even
something.
had all the kids around him. Anakin, are you going to race in the pod race and in the pods? I think Anakin's going to lose. Bye, Anakin. And it was just like, oh god, you know.
Yeah, it's just like if you want to have him younger, you have to make Padme younger. If you want to have
Yeah, no,
Padme be
everything.
Natalie
Yeah,
Portman, you have to have him be older.
yeah, like 3 years. Even if it was
Yeah,
just something, it would still be quite an age gap between them. But if she was 3 years younger, he was 3 years
yeah,
older.
and you
He'd
don't
been a
have to do.
teenager,
Yeah, you
and she
don't
would
have
have
to
been a
do.
very young woman.
Yeah, and you could play her age down, and you don't have to do that 10-year time jump between movies. Then, like,
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah.
you know what I
Um,
mean?
but
Yeah, like, do you think the major issue with this movie is that, like, the central, like, relationship, like, for lack of a better term, love interest, if you will, between Anakin and Padme offers up nothing but distraction for the entirety of the movie because it's so fucking creepy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, you know,
yeah, absolutely. I don't know that this is how they met, and no matter what happens, this will always be how they met.
yeah.
Yeah, so it does. It sets up the tone, and
Mm.
I don't know. It was,
She's like
I
she's
mean, like,
grooming him.
but like when this is what I'm saying. When this film gets something wrong, like this film was just swinging. It
Mm.
was all the pendulum was all the way that way or all the way that way, and that was it. I feel like it was never in the middle because
Yeah,
when this
you're
film was
never in the
bad,
middle.
it was bad. But what got me through this film was the Darth Maul ball fights. The
Yeah,
earlier one was decent. It was very short, but it was just kind of him showing that like there's a red saber bad guy in the mix, and then the epic fight at the end and the pod race was just fantastic. I
yeah.
forgot how violent it was.
The
I remember
podcast
just
stuff. People
yeah,
die left and center.
so many people died. Like
Those Tusken
uh,
Raiders. Oh, we got Tusken Raiders on turn 9.
yeah.
It's like go out and deal with them, maybe.
Yeah.
Ah, angry sad noises.
Angry sand noises. But geez, that was so good. But then the film just kind of too much politics.
Yeah.
Far too much politics.
Too much. I know far too much about the trade terms and trade agreements that go on in those galaxies than I need to for a Star Wars trilogy.
Like how one would go about an embargo. Was not
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I was.
yeah. Oh, no, the Trade Federation have got a blockade up outside Naboo. Next up on 6. Oh.
Simpsons, I think they had a great episode where they were like, now, past this legislation is, or is it? And I remember just thinking that was so perfect because it was just there was so much and like I actually another thing which I quite liked how sneaky Palpatine kind of is, hiding in plain sight, but like you can see things before they happen. You've got superhuman senses, like and this guy doesn't pass the vibe check. You know what I mean? Let alone like having Jedi powers. I'd be like, yeah, no, this dude, no. Clearly a Sith Lord.
Cloud things the dark side does. I think that's what they do. They just make excuses the whole way through it about how the dark side clouds things, and the fact that he's in such proximity and he's got such control over the dark side that he's probably like fucking with the Jedi Masters. Like if they just met Anakin the Master, no Darth Vader.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
oh man, oh.
What does he need to do? You know what I mean? I know he's whiny, but I think he might deserve the position.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, and clouded in darkness his future is. Well, then don't take him on. It's a terrible idea.
Just kill him.
Yeah, or just let him out. Don't teach him.
No, just kill him.
I see. Yeah, his future is clouded in darkness with superpowers. We shall give him. But Annie was actually one of the better things about the film because he was with Jar Jar, they went too far. With Annie, you kind of had a kid's perspective of it, so he didn't the brevity of it, the actual weight of it didn't really occur to him because he still had that kind of innocence. And even when he flies off and kind of fights the battle in space,
he kills thousands of people.
Thousands. Qui-Gon told me not to leave the cockpit, so that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. He kills thousands, but
thousands of people.
And he but he would have been enough for to have a light-hearted perspective on everything that was going on. With Jar Jar, they just at least they listen to people because Jar Jar in the second one is like, hello. Oh, hi,
Yeah.
hi, Jar Jar. That's basically it. Like,
hello, my name is Charles Binks. People used to call me Jar Jar, but I don't go by that title anymore.
I used to be a terrible, terrible alcoholic.
But like, I just think like of all the movies, this got way more wrong than any of them. But at the same time, it got a lot right. Like the casting, Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu, bringing back Yoda, having Hugh McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Yes,
Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn,
excellent.
Natalie Portman as Padme.
Mm-hmm.
Like the casting outside of like the bad creative decision, Jar Jar Binks was completely unnecessary. He's a toy magnet. That's all he was supposed
No,
to
that
be.
was all he was supposed to be.
Jake Lloyd, like no fault of his own, he gave a pretty decent performance, if you ask me. Like, because like as I said, he's a kid that's supposed to be acting like a kid. But like, I just think that the context of having him in that world was so wide of the mark because the love interest with Padme needed to start in episode 1. So their relationship, because of the age difference, was creepy. Like I said, the fact that you have him entering into a dogfight where he ends up killing thousands of people. And like, you know what I mean? This is supposed to be a family movie. The kid kills like thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like, no, I just think like the of all the mistakes the major and casting or creativity was just really Jar Jar and Jake Lloyd, and not really Jake Lloyd being cast as Anakin, just the decision of having Anakin being so young in part 1, like which they obviously understood because of the way they aged him up and having Hayden Christensen come in for
obviously there was a thought though. I wanted to see that like this guy is going to become Darth Vader. I want that to shock them.
Yeah,
because he is just genuinely a very sweet kid.
Yeah,
he's nice, he's polite, he's kind of got a little bit of a character about him, and he's going to be like Darth Vader. So I think that I kind of got. But at the same time, for the situations you're going to put in and what you expected him to do, you needed someone who was a little bit older.
Yeah, just like if he was 16.
16 would have been perfect. Exact right age.
You know what I mean? Like
still a kid, a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you can eat, and the fact that he's so wide-eyed and bushy-tailed from just living in Tatooine his whole life that he hasn't seen the galaxy, like, you know what I mean? So you can play off that he's 16, but he's a little bit immature, and it's all about him becoming a man. Which is what Attack of the Clones kind of was all about Hayden Christensen learning how to be it was all about Anakin becoming a man, really, like, you know what I mean? And then straight away Padme, like the fucking poacher she is, took his virginity in a heartbeat. She took it. But no, so like I just thought that was like the only decisions that I really had an issue with that weakened the movie, and because they decide to put them so deeply ingrained into the actual movie, they weaken a great deal more than they should have, and that's Anakin being so young and Jar Jar Binks having such a central role in the movie weakens it throughout, because every sort of situation is supposed to have levity. Doesn't have it because you've got Jar Jar, as you said, doing his Mr. Magoo act, falling all over the place, and Misa.
It would have been impossible for everything to go that right.
Yeah,
like he was literally. Oh, sorry. Do you remember when he kicks a droid that's down and it shoots its laser and it's stuck to his feet, and he kind of like kicks it around, and he manages to take out 3 droids.
Yeah,
but like because the wires were stuck to his leg. I mean, at that point, you no matter what you do, including killing Qui-Gon, you can't drag me back in. You just can't. Yeah, I'm way too removed now. It's
too much of a tone shift.
Oh, it's a cartoon. Like with Qui-Gon, it was like skill. It was like a Sith Lord versus a Jedi Master and stuff like that. But like it wasn't like haps, and the soundtrack was fantastic. Yeah. But all the hapstinence that Jar Jar had was just too much.
Yeah, like so. We've talked about Jar Jar, we've talked about the creepiness of the whole thing, but like the positives this movie, we touched a little bit on the intro or the battle scenes. And one thing this trilogy had that you can't say that the following trilogy had, and a lot of people had a problem with the Disney-led Lucasfilm trilogies, they didn't have enough lightsaber battles, but these fucking trilogies had a shit ton. I had one of the most memorable, you just touched on, we talked about a little bit earlier, was Darth Maul fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, and that fucking operatic backtrack is ridiculous, man. Like it's like for such a weak film, at times to have such a strong climax is absolutely incredible. Like, and that's what this trilogy does time and time again, is have really, 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 really solid climaxes. I think anytime, so you can kind of forgo the weaknesses, and that's why I think they've aged a lot better in people's eyes. That the people have to remember that a whole generation grew up the original Star Wars, but a whole different generation grew up the prequels. So they hold them in the same kind of esteem. as the people that held the original trilogy, because that was their childhood in the same way that was their childhood. And like one thing this movie we talked about was the casting. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi was such a pivotal part of this movie. And to have Hugh McGregor come in and just fucking own that role is
big time.
Yeah. What did you think of his portrayal of Obi-Wan and watching the casting?
Oh, I loved him. He was charming. He had a good sense of humor. It was good to see that he was still learning. It's, Obi-Wan having a master was kind of bizarre because he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, It was great to see him young. He looked the part.
Yeah.
I think Guinness himself would probably tip the cap. I actually thought he looked the part. So yeah, no. Again, this falls into the apps. There's no Venn diagram. There's very little in this movie that would sit in the middle between got it right and got it wrong. Yeah. He was just firmly in the well done. I actually, and both of them. Leslie Nielsen as well kind of had that.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen.
Impossible for me not to fucking do that. Impossible. Every single time.
Yeah, that's a different movie.
It would be a different movie. That would be the Jar Jar Binks centered movie for sure. But I thought it was cool. I thought they did a good job of showing what Jedis are capable of, where they try to gas them, so they just hold their breath for like 20 minutes, and then they come out and they take on all sorts, and then you can see them do that thing where they run really fast, where they actually dart. And I just thought it was cool. They were just, you got to see a Jedi cut loose a little bit, instead of just like, we are the most powerful things in the world. And every now and again, they move something that weighs like a kilo at most. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Could you imagine Leslie Nielsen that last battle duel? And he's like, Darth Maul's like, surely you cannot defeat me. And he's like, I will defeat you. Don't call me surely.
I could just picture what Lucas just saying, I'm making art. I'm making art. You know what I mean?
It's like so many toys. That
was it. He wanted to hit both markets. He wanted something for the old. We got our lightsabers and the kids get their Jar Jar, but nobody liked them. Yeah. Anyway, I think we spent enough time. Let's just slake into the second installment.
Jeez, that's a hard segue. I think we leave the segues to me, dude.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's a fucking hard segue.
Okay, just let's pretend that we can go back like 10 seconds. Show me how the master does it.
All right, dude. Like all the things, right? You weigh up. All right, we spoke about them. Like, you know what I mean? One thing this did was build for the future. It set all the groundwork. It got young Annie in. It showed his relationship with Padme. It showed you that the Force is being counteracted by the dark side. We got to see Darth Maul. We got to learn about the rule of two. We got to talk about, or we got to see Qui-Gon Jinn, and we got to see Obi-Wan Kenobi's kind of origin story, a soft origin. All right. And this is the building blocks for what we're going to see next. And that's the Attack of the Clones. And see, that's how you segue and all. And
I really, really wish you hadn't done that so well. Just in this one particular occasion.
But that's what it does. It builds so nicely for Attack of the Clones, because now we've got to see the progression of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's no longer a Padawan. He's now a Jedi himself. He's got an aged Anakin that's now his Padawan. We got to see the role now of Natalie Portman's Padme. This is like 10 years on. It's something we talked about. The reason we touched on the first part was the 10-year age gap jump is obviously to counteract the criticisms of the young casting of Anakin in part one and all the things that was attached to that. But we got to see Hayden Christensen come in. What do you think of the progression? Do you think it felt natural when you sit down and you watch this trilogy, like we both did in the build up to this episode? Do you think the progression felt natural from Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones, even though we had a 10-year time gap?
Yeah, I thought when they arrived, it kind of reminds you of the superhero thing where, this is how he got bit by the spider, and this is how it's affected his life. And then the second film, we kind of just get on with it. And this kind of had that kind of energy where, and actually, despite the fact that Hayden Christensen was quite wooden in this, but despite that, I actually thought that there was a bit of chemistry.
It's not fair. He doesn't. No. Obi-Wan is so mean to me.
And he had jokes. Do you remember him having jokes? Took you long enough to get here. I was looking for a speeder that I liked, one that was fast enough and had the right color. And I was like, ooh.
At the end of every joke, he goes, "Insert charisma."
Insert charisma. Charisma not found. but he was wooden, and I don't know. Like, here's the thing: we always
another
say,
inexperienced actor, like,
Yeah, but sometimes you're given a script and you're told, I don't think Hayden Christensen would be naturally the most charismatic guy, jumper and all anything else I've seen him in. But at the same time, maybe you're told to just kind of be a little bit stoic or something like that. I don't know, because he was extremely stoic.
Yeah.
He never got
it Lauren Kasdan that directed the sequels to Star Wars. So, like, I just think maybe the direction of George Lucas was the reason for some of the weak acting performances, because George Lucas hadn't made acting for a long time, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
Before he made these movies, and I'm pretty sure Lauren Kasdan directed fucking Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. I'm pretty sure it was Lawrence Kasdan. I'm not too sure. I'll check it here in a sec. But, like, I just think that maybe George Lucas was a bit like too hands-on. Maybe his like rustiness as director led to some weak performances from the actors. What do you think?
I think they were trying to make money, which every film is.
Yeah.
But I think when you start making a film and you've kind of got your eye on the merchandise side of it as you're making it, I think that's always going to affect the quality.
Irving Kershner, sorry.
Yeah.
Lawrence Kasdan wrote it.
Well, there you go then.
Lee Brackett.
But no, I thought the second film felt a little bit more natural, because it was just supposed to be like a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
It just started. And the one thing I say that this film got right, it was actually kind of nice to see a clone army, and they're kind of badass. They look scary. They look like the future of warfare and stuff like that. Considering just what a joke. The ongoing. I'm so sick of them. But you see the memes about those were the droids you were looking for, or like something about them missing. Basically, the jokes always come back to the fact that they literally can't hit the side of a barn.
Yeah, you're thinking of stormtroopers.
Stormtroopers, sorry, excuse me. Yeah. But I was just, but in this, you could see that they were like clones of Jango Fett. And they were kind of like, oh, this is a game changer. These guys could be dangerous. Like, I mean, imagine leading an army of these guys. And they I know they didn't show up till later in the film, but I thought, God, it's great to see I felt like the Stormtroopers got a little bit of redemption.
Yeah, man, Attack of the Clones, the tone of it was so much darker than Phantom Menace.
Big time.
Like, and it really, like, for me, like, I seen it in the cinema back in 2002, I think it came out, or some shit like that. But, like, when I seen it, like, even as a younger kid, like, I was like, fuck, this is Star Wars. This is, to me, this is Star Wars. This is the tone. Like, look at Phantom Menace, right? Phantom Menace, you could say it has its weaknesses. We can all talk about its weaknesses. We already spoke about its weaknesses, but it has a very, very important part in terms of the building blocks of the Star Wars universe. And thankfully, the tone, which was very like unbalanced in part one, was taken away, and they went for a slightly more serious and darker tone in Attack of the Clones. And because it really suited the subject matter too, because you're talking about, this is a huge civil war. We're talking about this is where you're getting into the nitty gritty of the galactic politics in this area. Instead of having the shit, you got into the wrong side of it in part one, talk about trade agreements and embargoes and blockades and bullshit. What we want to talk about is warfare, civil war, the really nitty gritty politics, and
the cost of it.
Yeah,
like the ground level cost of war.
And not just the cost of it, but like the ramifications from it too. Like, you know what I mean? That, like,
and the humor was still there, but it was a little bit more gallow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, there was they'd make jokes in the face of death, kind of thing. Like when they're in the arena and stuff like that. They're still kind of being a little bit, but there was actual danger. There was that kind of sense of danger actually present. Yeah,
there's some amount of deaths in this movie as well. Like, like Jango Fett gets decapitated
in front of his kid.
You know what I mean? That's dark as fuck.
Or in front of himself.
It's
not really. It's like a genetic clone that they gave him a clone that they didn't put the age enhancing stuff into it. So that was a Jango Fett.
I'm trying my best in my head to mesh the two words of child and clone and child.
I know there's something there, isn't there? Yeah. But there was, of course, it had actual genuinely kind of some heavy stuff in it,
Yeah, like the one thing I thought about was very visually fucking like impressive. That like the part where Obi-Wan goes to see the clone army. I can't remember the name of the crowd that he goes to see, but the tall alien dudes. And,
with the long necks. Yeah. Whatever their deal was.
Some fucking Star Wars fans shouting at me now.
Yeah, absolutely. You can hear it. Yeah.
Cloners, Star Wars.
I think they were called long necky cloner. I think that's what they're. Yeah.
You keep going there, dude. I'll find it.
Yeah, but
the Kaminans or something.
you know what really took me out of it as well,
Camino.
and it's something that Blade 2 was guilty of as well, is being a kind of a cool enough film, but you can allow special effects, like there was a lot of special effects in Clone Wars, not obviously like
Yeah, you're a special effect.
thanks man, entire landscapes, entire planets, so of course
Yeah,
there's going to be, but with the aliens and stuff, you'd let it slide because you don't have a frame of reference for a giant kind of mantis kind of dinosaur-y thing.
yeah,
That's cool. But anytime, like when Anakin was supposed to be like riding one of them, or when he's on that planet with Padme and he rides another kind of thing, and it looks like it's so clearly really bad special effects,
yeah,
because a human being is something
yeah,
that you do, like if it's rendered badly, you spot it straight away. And that
yeah,
really, really annoyed me at the
yeah.
time. Like,
I thought they nailed it, man.
he thought they nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like yeah, I'm the same as you. Like it was like it was trying to be ambitious, but it was kind of hampered by the technology of its time.
That's
And
it. Yeah. I know that just is what it is. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's it.
it's a case of like maybe running a little bit before you could kind of walk in that situation. It happened
Mm,
to a lot of movies in that period of time, or anything that was special effects heavy in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. A lot of times they've aged poorly, and we've spoken about
yes.
that on a lot of occasions. You said Blade 2, they're a perfect example. The fight sequence between Blade and
Yeah, and they jump off the walls and stuff, and then it's very clear, like the way the legs move, or the way
yeah,
he
the
kind of
bodies are
the
elongated
body,
and stuff.
yeah, the
He was
bodies are elongated, and a human
mm,
being, it's just not that fluid of motion that
yeah,
you would, yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like so, like I just think yes, we'll probably see 4K remasters. I'm sure they already exist. Like you know what I mean, where they
oh yeah, of
tighten up
course,
that
yeah,
special effects and stuff like that. Like that's not really an issue going forward. It's just that I think that is a situation in that decade because you had that technological advance going on,
mm,
where you had the next wave or the current wave of CGI, and even though sometimes now it still looks hokey as fuck, that like Marvel, even their Titans, they've been guilty of some of the special effects looks atrocious in their movies. Some of the CG green screen backgrounds, like just
mm,
make a set. You've got enough fucking money, like in all fairness. But
yeah,
like I just think that decade, more so than most, and maybe if you look back at the early 90s when we had that CGI that was kind of getting more realistic, that it's aged really, really poorly because you're in that bridging zone between a new technology and actually an understanding of that new technology
yeah,
and how to make it look photorealistic. And I just think it's one of those things that they're a bit hamstrung by the era that they were made in this trilogy in terms of the special effects. But I'm sure there's 4K fucking remasters of these already out there.
yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
think as well, another thing, there was some really, really, really cool scenes. I have to, the battle between Jango Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi was awesome. And
Yeah. On Camino.
on Camino, yeah,
Yeah.
and a few others in the arena. But there was so many times where you knew that like they were just in a green room and they were
Yeah.
just swiping at things. It's
Yeah.
just like, and there's a bad guy there, and a block of laser there, and a bad guy there, and it was so hokey. You know what I mean? It was,
Yeah.
and like Padme is there, go pew pew pew. It
Yeah.
was so obvious that there was no kind of direction, and sometimes you spot it, and it again, the whole thing about movies, just don't take me out of it. And I think
Yeah.
really bad special effects, especially, I don't think there was one or two, there was ways around it. You could have shot it different.
Especially when
And
the aliens look pretty decent. Like,
the aliens, that's what I'm saying. And also, you don't have a frame of reference.
yeah.
Like, they can move a bit strange and weird because
Yeah.
well, they don't exist on
The
any
cloners
level.
were so cool, though,
The
aren't they?
cloners were cool. The
Yeah.
cloners were cool. But don't forget, you also know, like, despite you have money, of course, but there is still something to be said for effort. Because
Yeah.
there are films that just put in the effort and render and render and render and render.
Yeah.
Look, like Edward Norton's Hulk looked
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal, like the sinew of his muscle and everything like that, because they bled over it, to
Yeah.
get that kind of perfection. So I do think that like Star Wars was just like, oh, there's just too much. Just get it done, like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like ILM, like, Industrial Light and Magic, they're one of the top dudes and like top companies, whatever,
Oh yeah,
in terms of special effects, like, so I think they did what the technology allowed them to do at that time, like in the same way they did back in the 1970s and going into the 80s when they made the sequels and stuff. That I just think George Lucas did exactly what the best they could at that time. Like look at Star. They always look good for their time. But when you seen that back in the day, like that would have looked awesome.
Yes.
It's just it's aged poorly. It's just one of those things, like it's
One of
like
those.
yeah, it's just the decade it was made in. It's like you said, it's
True. I remember the second Matrix where Neo flies up into the air and you see him burst through the clouds and he kind of spins around and it
yeah,
looked fucking dumb. And I remember just looking at it going, that looks dumb.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, yeah, sometimes I'm just thinking I'd rather not have it at all.
yeah.
Just give me those practical effects of the first film, like put them on strings and stuff like that. It was just
Yeah, that was a portent of things to come with the Matrix trilogy,
yeah.
or sorry, quadrilogy. No,
Ugh.
unfortunately. But like like I just think like with this movie, it got way more right. Sorry, it got way more right than it got wrong. Like you know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yes. This is the strongest for me of the three films of the three in the prequel.
yeah, it probably is actually. Yeah, that like
Yeah.
even though Revenge of the Sith is good, there's just so much like
Revenge of the Sith.
It's
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith is good, but they got what they did. The unforgivable is how Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Like, and if you
yeah,
get that wrong, it's not a good movie because
yeah,
that's what the movie was about.
yeah,
Like, I know they had all this scene and this going on in the background, but I'm sorry, that film was about the final step of Anakin becoming Darth Vader.
yeah.
And they got it wrong. So, like, that's just too. That's you lose 3 out of 5 stars for that alone.
Yeah.
So Clone Wars was just cool. It was the one that sits in the middle, and it kind of carried on the story, and it left it a bit open ended, and it was able to enjoy it.
It was Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, Clone Wars was the show that led into
Yeah, yeah.
But like one thing I loved about this was how powerful it finally got to show Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got to see him like right on the back of that fucking creature thing, like when he go he actually got to see not just the power of him as a Jedi, but you get to see him like an investigator or something. Like he goes, he finds Camino, he figures out what's going on about Cypher Diaz, the clone army. He finds out with Jango Fett. He finds out about like how he's got a clone son, his Boba Fett. He fucking trails Jango Fett off Camino to another fucking planet. Where in that planet he finds Count Dooku. Like
That's right.
He finds out about the plot with the Trade Federation. He goes and starts taking them all on pretty much by himself. Like you know what I mean? Like that's.
I also, even though when he catches up with Count Dooku, there is something to be said for the character knowing their limitation.
Yeah.
He knew that he was up against a Sith Lord that was even like at one stage Qui-Gon Jinn's master. So this guy is not to be fucked with.
Anakin, I can't have to feed him alone.
Yeah, and of course it shows Anakin as being, it showed Anakin as being what he is, and that's extraordinarily talented but brash.
Yeah,
it did. But you're right, it was a great film for the Obi-Wan. To build the Obi-Wan character.
Yeah, because it really showed you the might of Obi-Wan in this movie, even though we see it even for like Obi-Wan is like arrogantly amazing in the third one. He's so arrogant because he knows how incredible he is at fighting. But like in this one, he was still kind of like still getting like the hang of it, but he was kind of like impressed by himself at times in it, where he was still kind of getting used to how good he was, like and that's what I loved about this movie, that actually got to show us the strength, because you can say what you want about how iconic as Alec Guinness is, who played the original Obi-Wan.
But he was the quite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And but you see this, and you get to see Obi-Wan in this trilogy really young and vital. You get to see him take out Darth Maul. He takes out fucking Grievous in the next movie. We don't jump too far ahead, but he takes out.
But he does. I mean, we talked him as a whole. Yeah, he does. He takes out Grievous. He takes out. He gives. Let me see. There's another big head he took as well. But anyway, he kind of becomes like the most influential, because he ends up going on to influence even Luke even after. He kind of becomes, even more than Yoda for me, the most influential Jedi.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That'll make some heads explode as well.
Yeah, he takes out Darth Maul and Grievous, but in the middle one, Dooku gets killed at the start of part 3, doesn't he?
Dooku gets killed pretty much. Like there's a space battle. They land on the ship and they go to save the Chancellor, and that's where they fight and kill Dooku. And Anakin actually pretty much does it by himself, because Anakin's got a lot stronger. Yeah,
it's do it.
Yeah,
do it. Kill him. Do it now.
Yeah. And I love to like kill him. I really shouldn't, but go on. You will. That'd be good to yourself. Yeah. It's like, like I should cook. Nah, get a takeaway. It's that kind of same energy. I know. I got the food there. Gosh, you treat yourself. That was the energy. That's how much convincing it took him.
Part two though was really cool as well because like we got to kind of see we don't really get to see too often these actual Jedi like kind of battle, like a battle, like a group of actual Jedis, like a battalion of Jedis or whatever, fighting a shit ton of people at once. We don't really get to see that because like most of them are killed off by the time we talk about the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And then we get to see very little of the Jedi's, like they're allergic to Jedi's in the new one, in the new trilogy. So like you can levy whatever you want about the prequels, but we got to see more lightsaber battles in the prequels than any of the other trilogies.
Oh yeah, they showed up in the arena and it became the Jedi show. I mean, they were that was badass, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And Samuel L. Jackson got his pound of flesh.
Mace Windu.
Yeah, because he was a cool character and he was excellent in it, but he had a lightsaber. He was a Jedi. Let's see some action with him, and they gave it, and it was really, really, really cool. And of course, and Jango Fett is a big head to take.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like there's like those droids, and anything less than like 8 million of them, I think would be impressive. Anything less than that, I just don't even talk to me. They love getting chopped up. It's all they're into.
Roger. But yeah, like that's what part two did though. Is like part one kind of built the world, but part two really expanded on it.
Yeah,
we got to see like this is what a sequel should do. Yeah. Like it really should do. Like we got to see the start of the stormtroopers, and you said that this was kind of like the reprisal for the stormtroopers because the reprieve for the stormtroopers because we got to see them actually be effective.
Redemption was the word I used.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like, I know it was an R word.
But you know when they show up and they actually kick ass. They
show up like redemption.
Like they show up and they actually show up like a military unit.
Yeah,
they like some of them exit the people carrier, some of them man the guns. There's some of them fly. They move like a strategic unit.
Yeah,
and they save people and they fight. And I was just like, that's scary.
Man.
Or that's awesome, depending on whose side they're on. But that was like that makes a clone army something that's impressive. And the stormtroopers were such a joke.
Yeah,
forward like
they become like they are a running joke. But this is like the battle at the end of Clone Wars. We get to see the arena thing where Obi-Wan, Padme, and Anakin are all put up and they all escape and have to fight monstrosities and all that. And then we get to see the Jedi come in. And then when the clones come in and save the day, I nearly almost forgotten about the battle that follows. Because in my mind, like I always think of this movie that the arena sequence is the climax, but it's not. There's like a fucking massive battle after that. It's like probably the biggest scope of any battle, nearly really like in terms of like how good it looked. Like I know there's a massive battle at the end of Rise of Skywalker, but like the way this actually looked, with the ground forces, there was an air force, there was infantry, as you said, there was battle like squadrons and shit.
They had different weapons. Yeah, like there was weapons actually, like they had the tools for purpose. Yeah, as opposed to just like a load of guys they're all wearing white.
Yeah,
and they've all got the same blaster and they can't hit anything and they just love getting shot. And the armor that they're wearing is dog shit because if they get shot in the shoulder, they die.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm totally with you. I just think that this is the first time that we really got to see the stormtroopers actually be terrifying and be a real military might, like a real weapon. Yeah, and the battle sequence with the droids then like is fucking unbelievable. Like, and it builds up really nicely to the one of the only times we get to see Yoda really use his full strength in a battle, and that's when Yoda goes against Count Dooku. Or is that
sorry, exactly right.
Yeah, and like, what do you think of that fight scene? Because this is pretty much what happens first. Is because we talked about earlier was Obi-Wan, Padme falls out of a helicarrier, and then or a helicopter or some shit, a cargo carrier, personal carrier, and Obi-Wan and Anakin going to fight Count Dooku. Like, you talk about rash, man. Skywalkers love getting their hands cut off.
It's all they do.
Oh my god!
It's like you haven't Skywalkered until you get your hands. Actually, at near the end of the last film, where Rey kind of says, "My name is Rey Skywalker," she should have chopped off her own arm. I mean, commit to the bit or don't. You know what I mean?
Or just stop stealing people's names. We'll get to that in another episode. Seriously, weakest ending ever.
But I'm not going to lie, because it actually I was watching it in my bed. I had the laptop in my lap and I was just watching away, and I got a flashback to how it felt when I was in the cinema, and I'm getting a chill even now when I knew after all these years that Yoda was about to let loose.
Yeah,
I'm getting a chill. I'm getting chills. I loved it. Yeah. I don't care how anyone else feels. I'm not even interested in debating it. I loved it.
Yeah, man. Even in part 3, where he goes to Palpatine, if you're so strong, why do you leave?
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're the one walking away, bitch.
Yeah, that's pretty much what that is. That's
yeah.
Jedi speak for saying, like, where you going, bitch? Where you going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Fuck your bitch.
It's like, where's the Palpatine from a minute ago? Where did he go?
Oh, that's what I want to know. Yeah, no, I just thought it was great, and I love, because it calls back to earlier. Like he goes, if you keep going like that, you'll be a better swords master than Master Yoda. And he goes, I thought I already was, and he basically laughs in his face.
Yeah, he goes, only in your mind you are.
Only in your mind. That's exactly the line. Well done. And then you just see Yoda, and he and it did extremely. That was extremely well rendered because he
lets the walking stick go.
He just lets the walking stick go, and he's got the little green lightsaber, and he just uses
his hand out. Yeah, he doesn't even.
He uses the fact that he's so small to his advantage.
Yeah,
you cannot lay your hand on him. Oh, he was phenomenal.
Oh man, it's such an impressive scene though, because he's just like looking at it, just like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you up, motherfucker. Yeah. And he just like drops the walking stick, and he doesn't even like draw the saber. He brings his hand over, doesn't he?
He uses the force.
To bring it into his hand, like, you know what I mean.
And it's cool because if you needed Count Dooku. If there was like going to be a winner or loser, like it seemed like Yoda had the upper hand, but it wasn't over. But Count Dooku did the classic bad guy thing of defeat me or save them.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of a good out as well to keep the Count Dooku character going a little bit longer. Christopher Lee, rest in power, and actual Nazi hunter, that man's life, my God.
Yeah. But like the actual epitome of a legend.
Oh no, the epitome of a legend.
Yeah.
There was Christopher Lee, and then there's peasants. That's it. That's it. But anyway, but like it was a good way for Yoda to not lose face at all. He was just badass, but he went to save the Jedis. That was the decision he made, and I thought that was brilliant. I thought the special effects were actually pretty good for it as well. Yeah,
it was such an imprreif fight sequence. Like,
it was an awesome fight sequence.
Man, like, and as you said, like, you got Count Dooku alive now. We have Anakin, who's begun his long road to becoming a robot, pretty much. You know what I mean? He gets his arm cut off. Obi-Wan gets incapacitated. Yoda saves them. Count Dooku escapes, and we pick up in part 3. There's a space battle.
It's an awesome opening.
Yeah, it's very very Marvel-esque. Like, even though Marvel did it afterwards, but it's very much like we're on chapter 3. You're either witness or you're not.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the first 2 movies, we're not holding around anymore. We're getting stuck into this movie.
Yeah,
and that's what I liked about it. The pacing in part 2 and part 3 are excellent, I think.
Yeah. Even in part 3, where they're coming in hot and they're up against, I can't remember what the droids were called, but they're basically droids on the outside. Droids. Yeah, it's something vulture droids. Vulture droids. Yeah. And anyway, he Anakin says, I'm going to drop off to help them because they're getting annihilated, and they were literally dying. Like, they showed a few of them like screaming and getting blown up and stuff. And Obi-Wan it was quite cold. He goes, they're doing their job. We have to do ours. Yeah, and I thought, like, that's cool. Like, that's war.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, that's the harsh decisions that you have to make in war.
Even Padme's stand-in gets killed, is it in part 2? Keira Knightley, and she gets killed, and that's what the dude even said to her. You have to do your job. She did hers.
Yes,
like, you know what I mean. Like, as you said, that's war.
Real stakes. War. Yeah, and you felt that, and they arrived in absolutely excellent fashion. Like, they arrive in a car, in a spacecraft crash, jump out and just start into it. So yeah, like the pacing. It kind of stops. Just the first stop in this film is when they save the Chancellor and they get him back to wherever they need to get him back to Tatooine or wherever the hell it was.
After he kills Count Dooku.
But like from the opening second to the killing of Count Dooku, it did not stop.
Yeah, and he decapitates him with like a scissor move.
Yeah, it's a weird.
Like, fucking hell, like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. These movies are pretty dark. Like, at times.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Yeah, but like that was the first time we ever really see Anakin killing in cold blood. Isn't it, like,
he killed a defeated foe.
Did he kill the Tusken Raiders in part 1 or part 2 or part 3?
He killed them in part 2, I think.
Was he? Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, he did, because he had the short hair then, didn't he?
Yeah.
I
hate them.
Yeah, I hate sand. It's so coarse.
Yeah.
It gets in everything.
It gets in everything. Yeah.
My mother's dead body, and then all of those Tusken Raiders.
Imagine you don't see your mother for 10 years and you show up 12 seconds before she dies.
Yeah, and
like, if you showed up the day before, you know.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man. Yeah. Like, you might have actually saved her, yeah. Like, but like the thing about,
I love when he comes out of the hut and he just goes to the 2 guys who are sitting there, like, no warning whatsoever.
One guy's head off, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, straight away.
That's one thing about it, man. Like whether or not Anakin was whiny or people don't like Hayden Christensen's portrayal of him, like yeah, plenty of his detractors and whatever, but they really showed, like just like we spoke about Obi-Wan, they really showed Anakin's strengths. Like he's able to go into the Tusken Raiders, they walk like men, but they're more than that, they're beasts or whatever, or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're like, so they'd be really hardy motherfuckers. He goes in and wipes out an entire settlement, like, and he's only a Padawan at this stage. Like, you know what I mean? It shows you the real strength, like, of Anakin as a character, that he's actually almost terrifyingly strong. And the fact that he's so misled, or so it's what Yoda says, like, he gives into his emotions too much, like, you know what I mean?
And naivety, you know what I mean? He seems to be naive as well.
Yeah, it's like, what's it say? Fear leads to anger or some shit like that.
Yeah,
like
anger leads to violence. Or so, violence leads to the dark side, something like that. But I thought, this is the thing. At that point, I'm watching it for the first time. Not like I'm going back to when I originally watched it, and I'm thinking, now this guy can become Darth Vader.
Yeah,
he's after, because he just arrived and seen his power is at obviously an all-time high, because he's always getting stronger. And he gets there, and he's now Palpatine is actually in his ear, and he's after killing a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, but they just went all over the place with the tone. And despite the epicness that there actually is in this film, I just that was like, I want to learn how to save people so that I can save her, and then he's the one that kills her. I don't know, man.
What does Natalie Portman die of in this movie?
That's great, because he chokes her and then she goes on to give birth.
Yeah, it's like all her vital signs are fading, but there's nothing physically wrong with her. It's like she's lost the will to live.
Yeah, because of the actions.
And 2 gates cut. I'm out of here.
No,
the dark side.
But that's it. I remember reading a review for this. They called it a big steaming pile of Sith, and
genius.
Yeah, it's on second watch. That seems maybe a tiny bit harsh, because actually some aspects of this film I really enjoyed. The Obi-Wan actually fighting Anakin killing the younglings was like, I mean, you want to talk dark, and it's just that scene where like he just lets this lightsaber, turns on the lightsaber, and one kid just jumps back a little bit spooked.
Yeah,
and Obi-Wan sees the tape, and that's when he knows that there's no conversation to be had.
Yeah, man. Order 66. That scene's incredible, man.
Incredible scene.
That's
perfect.
Those clones, man, they turn quick. Like Cody was just talking to Yoda.
I wonder if they even knew. You know what I mean? Like Order 66 existed. Like, is it a trigger word or something that was rendered into them? Because they were genuinely on their side. They were genuinely kind of loyal. And then Order 66, and they just kind of went, "Oh, okay."
Yes, yes, my lord.
That was it. Yes, my lord. Yeah. And some of that was brutal. Like, you know, like sometimes they'd just be there was the purple woman, female Jedi, and they just stopped. They were walking with them, and they just kind of stop. And they just kind of go a bit behind her, and then they just overwhelm her with firepower. And some of them were like real dark endings, you know what I mean?
They executed them, and they were shooting the shit out of dead bodies and everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
And then Yoda got another kind of cool little moment where he just decapitates 2 soldiers that are behind him. Yeah, that was awesome.
Like, oh yeah, you're going to sneak up on Yoda, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, exactly.
From a distance. I'm sure you've got snipers, right?
Are you sure he said Order 66? You sure it wasn't Order 65? Or was it Order 6?
I think it might be in Order 69, because they just fucked each other whenever.
But yeah, Order 66 was fantastic. It was really, really well executed.
Really gravitas.
And it was like the absolute destruction of the Jedis. Like, they lost so badly in this movie.
Oh, 100%. Like everything. Lost everything.
Yeah.
Lost the chosen one. They lost the council. They lost the younglings.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
they lost the territory. They lost their army.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was nothing left. Who was left?
Lost their sway in the Senate. Like, lost everything. Like
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu died.
Yeah. Like, he wanted to hire characters that you would think like maybe they'd like to keep around, but obviously they kept it. I don't know. They kept the tone. The tone was good.
Well, whoever was in the original trilogy still alive. That was it, really.
That was it, actually. Yeah.
That's what they were saying. Like, that's what they were thinking. Like, we just keep Obi-Wan alive. We keep Anakin alive. We keep
Yoda.
Luke and Leia have to be born.
Yeah, and Padme can't. Padme is never mentioned.
And Palpatine has to survive, and we get to see his transformation of the Emperor we know from the original trilogy.
Yeah,
he's all disfigured and shit like that. One thing that I thought that scene would have been better if Anakin hadn't found out this now follow me with this. Anakin finds out right before the battle between Mace Windu and Palpatine that Palpatine controls the dark side, and then later on, Mace Windu goes, "You have to listen to me, Anakin. He's evil. He must die." If that scene would have worked better if Anakin didn't know Palpatine was going to the dark side, and Mace Windu had found out. And when he was seeing that scene, he would have thought Mace Windu was killing Palpatine for no reason, and Mace Windu would have had to really convince Anakin that he found out that he was conspiring against the Senate, that he was part of the dark side, that he was working with Count Dooku and all the separatists and all this shit. That Mace Windu found that out and not Anakin. Then that scene would have made more sense that Anakin would have had a real decision to make instead of him just going, "Oh, I can save Padme." It's like, how can you save Padme? You've never proven to me once that you can save Padme, like, not once, and he doesn't even save her. Like, he doesn't.
No, he's kind of responsible for killing her, which really didn't seem necessary. I mean, Order 66 had been carried out. There was like widespread genocide. You could have worked it in there somewhere.
You said genocide.
No, I hope I didn't. Yeah.
I hope you did, because genocide.
Go back. Genocide. I did say it. I forgot that. But yeah, no, I thought it was. I know, like they had to make him tortured, but like the killing the younglings should have been enough to just.
Yeah, fucking hell, man! Killing the younglings was insane, scene, man. Fucking hell, man! Like, as we said, like there's so much fucking dark shit in these movies, like, you know, and we finally get to see like the genesis of Darth Vader and the shit that he's willing to go through in a misguided attempt to stop death from happening to the people he loves. And even though what he does is he always seems to cause their death.
Which is the old irony thing. Like, did you see that by trying to stop that you in fact have? Do you see?
Yeah.
It's a tire trope, and it was executed very, very, very poorly.
Yeah, like it's I don't understand why they couldn't just say that he like the Padme had her neck broke, or because they had to have her stay alive long enough to give birth to the kids, I suppose. So I know I couldn't just say she died in childbirth.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. Although it's kind of like, I know it's the past, but like the technology they have, childbirth probably wouldn't be, you know, I don't know. It was silly. And that was it.
She's losing the will to live.
You remember when Obi-Wan was fighting Anakin, and it's cool, like they're fighting away, they're using the Force and all of that cool stuff. And then there's a scene where they just stop and they both just start waving their swords around for like about 3 seconds. What was that about?
Is that Mustafar near the end? Is it?
Yeah, and it's just like they're both like going like, but they never actually touch each other. And I was just like, what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
Yeah, no, man.
That scene was awesome as well.
Yeah, man. Some of the part where they're going around the lava rivers and saying,
yeah, you know, like you would not be able to breathe, or take the heat. Like you do get that. That's not just fall. You know that it's not just falling into lava that will kill you. Like most people die for, you know, like it would be bad, but you wouldn't be okay. Yeah, it was like that was a bit, but you forgive everything because it's just it's really well done.
It's amazing though. You finally get to see Obi-Wan fucking just obliterate Anakin and Mustafar. Oh my fucking word, man! Anakin, don't do it. I've got the high ground.
I've got the higher ground. You know what? If my history is with Anakin is Anakin Bobai, and I always know Anakin. he's probably going to stop now that I have the higher ground.
No, but he's just like, and Anakin's like, maybe if I can just flip over his head quick enough. And Obi-Wan's like, oh, he's definitely going to try flip over my head. Yeah. It's the only thing he can literally do. And that's what I love about it. He cut off his arm and his legs in midair. Yes. He just goes, jung.
It's not like, it's not a swipe that happens to take off. It's a jun. It's a double. And then he lands, and then suddenly it turns out that the ground is in fact hot and can burn you.
Oh man, he gets.
And he's like, "I hate you," and I was like, "Dude, you just slaughtered all of the kids."
Yeah, dude.
Your opinion, very little.
It's like, dude, just for a second, just think about it. You just killed all the kids. You just committed mass infanticide, right? Number one, you just wiped out this entire dude's belief system. He's a whole order that he's based his entire life around.
Killed all his friends.
Killed all his friends. Like, by the way, he saw you like a brother, which you just mentioned. Like you were the chosen one. By the way, you just ruined his entire belief system because
do you know how horrifying it would be for me, Anakin, if you liked me? If you liked everything I was up to right now, if we were on the same page, that would horrify me, Anakin. So like, and he just left him there, and then of course there is, and it was actually quite cool the way, like, you know, the him and again, talk about not sticking the landing, because it's the end of the film. And he gets off and he's like, he's informed Padme is dead or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then just the no was
No.
because the whole thing is that Vader is not ever a kind of over the top character.
Yeah.
Like it's his presence. He walks into a room and he's got the voice.
Yeah.
And he's got the height, and he's just got he's just so unbelievably powerful in the Force. He should have got up, and we should have been told, and he should have said literally nothing for like 10 seconds, like nothing at all. It should have just been even Darth Vader has to process.
Yeah,
and then he should have just got on with it.
It should have been heavy breathing. Like he should have just killed the person who told him, who like should be like Padme is dead, and he should have just looked at him and went and killed that guy. And then just like literally Lord Vader, what do you do next? And all he hears just him breathing, and then the film ends.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like,
or even like just he's informed he's dead. He just clenches his fist, and shit in the room just starts to break around him, because there was nothing necessarily wrong with that.
Yeah,
it was no, everyone hated it. Yeah. This wasn't a thing that the people are split over. People are split over everything in Star Wars, but I do not know anyone who's here for the Vader no.
Yeah, that's that. I think that was the issue. Like throughout the trilogy, there was so many cool things about it, but oftentimes they had a real issue with sticking the landing. And we always talk about as execution so much is every bit as important as the idea itself.
Because we're both horror guys, and horror is definitely the genre that's it just does not stick the landing.
Yeah, and I just think, like, looking back on this trilogy, man, before we get the fuck out of here, is that it's so important in terms of the building blocks of the story that we already knew and what goes on in the future in terms of the Disney-led trilogy. But like, not only that, it was so important at ingratiating a brand new generation into the world of Star Wars, into the universe that we all know and love. And even though it didn't hold up to the high standards of a lot of people, to me, they've aged incredibly well. It's like special effects, the character development, the tone of the movies. Like, apart from Phantom Menace, which is totally all over the place, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith were very similar in tone. And Revenge of the Sith's not as solid as Attack of the Clones, granted, but it did so much, like, in terms of building the universe. Allowed us to see Yoda at his peak, allowed us to see Obi-Wan Kenobi at his peak.
Action-packed.
Action-packed. Yeah, exactly. Lots of lightsaber battles, a lot of darkness, a lot of fucking real epicness. And that's what this trilogy brought. You can say whatever you want, but in the end of the day, the prequel trilogy is fucking epic. What do you think, Noel? We get the fuck
I actually think you're right. And I honestly did not think that when I sat down to when I sat down to watch all of this in a day. I was dreading it.
Yeah,
but when you kind of know what to expect, so it doesn't hit you or overwhelm you, and
just look at it through Phantom Menace and move on.
Exactly. And then I was kind of like, wow, there's actually a lot in this I enjoy, and of course it's so many marks against it. And everyone's entitled to their opinion about that. But ultimately, I did actually enjoy it so much. It did have enough action, enough colorful kind of scenery. You had the aliens were rendered really well, and there was all the different species, and there was a lot of it. I enjoyed. It's an epic trilogy. You have to see it at least once.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like it's getting better with age, especially when held in comparison with the newer trilogy that we got. That it's, when you look at it, it's more in tone with the original Star Wars. It's more what we expect of a Star Wars movie, Star Wars universe, or Star Wars franchise. And that's what I did better than the next trilogy that Disney did, that maybe because George Lucas was so heavily involved, even though, like, I think that maybe at that stage he might have been better off maybe writing it and producing it and then someone else directed, because like as a director, even though the writing as well was pretty weak at times in these movies, and he wrote all three of them, like I just think that whatever it has the weaknesses, but in comparison to what came after, not the original trilogy in terms of the timeline we're going with, but the Disney trilogy, that it's way more tonally way more Star Wars than the trilogy that Disney did. And it did everything that I think a Star Wars trilogy should do. It built, it expanded, and it gave us lots of epic action. And like, that's my final words: the Star Wars trilogy, prequel, motherfucker. Prequel trilogy.
Well said. Preach. Definitely. It was definitely something that everyone should go back and revisit with maybe, more mature eyes, and just see what you see. Again, it's faults, and they're not inconsiderable at all. Yeah, even the entire casting of Hayden Christensen, there's a lot that I won't go to bat for it over. Yeah, but it actually is an entertaining trilogy. So with that, let's get the fuck out of here.
All right, motherfuckers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
And that is Dark Side of the Moon. And that was the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And all I have to say is, Misa thinks it wasn't so bad.
Justice for Jar Jar.
Justice for Jar Jar, motherfuckers. Peace.
Peace.
I'm a god, you're a madman. This is the word of Dark Side.